Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here. We already have introduced nearly, I think I read somewhere, 185 non-native species that have been brought into the Great Lakes, and not all of them.
One every 6 months, they say. Yeah.
But so what's the big deal? Why can't fishermen just start catching these fantastically large and fast-growing carp instead of, like, perch? Or the salmon that, by the way, we stock and that are also not native and that I've been told are themselves starting to reproduce, which is very unusual.
All over the world, there are nightmare stories of invasive species being introduced to systems and taking over.
Right. But why can't the fishermen just catch the carp instead of whatever it is they want to fish for now?
Well,
I mean, because
I've actually heard that Asian carp are actually very difficult for fishermen to catch. But the problem is that it will not be enough. Fishing has been suggested as one way to control Asian carp populations. It will help, but it will not reduce their numbers to the point where they won't take over. That's why right now in the Illinois River, although there are fishermen who fish for Asian carp, they're still a problem. They still constitute 90% of the biomass in the river. It's just that their characteristics allow them to thrive in these situations.
They're very competitive, very successful.
Yeah, at the expense of all of the native fish. And so, well, I just wanted to talk about what happened on Monday.
Go for it.
So on Monday, the President of the United States convened a summit for the governors of 3 Great Lakes states: Pat Quinn from Illinois, the governor of Wisconsin, and the governor of Michigan. And at that summit, he released a federal plan for controlling Asian carp, which I'm holding up right here.
I've got that too.
And it's called the Asian Carp Control Strategy Framework, and this is the government's plan for dealing with Asian carp. And the challenge here has been that the rivers that we're talking about and the canals and the locks are controlled by a bunch of different agencies, and there hasn't been a good coordinated plan to stop Asian carp. And this represents the government's attempt at creating that plan.
To integrate all these different agencies so that they can work together.
And all of the different tactics.
Right.
From fish poisoning to bubble barriers to
electrofishing.
Electrofishing.
I'm not sure what that is, but
yeah, that's where this is used by Department of Natural Resources to sample what fish are in waters. They've got a couple of electrodes on probes or on sticks that they stick into the water,
and
it stuns the fish and they float to the top.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
But this document has got some good things in it, and it's got some real serious shortcomings that we're really concerned about.
Well, I read that too, and I must admit that one of the shortcomings that leapt out at me anyway were the suggestion that the locks be closed maybe occasionally, once in a while. It just and also you've got the Des Plaines River and other places that I know that they've tried to address a lot of different possibilities here, but I don't see how you can fix the problem without closing the waterways.
Yeah, well,
and nobody wants to do that because they're saying, oh, jobs are at stake.
There are 100 years ago. Chicago reversed the Chicago River, dug the Chicago Sanitary and Ship Canal, and created an artificial connection between the Great Lakes and the Mississippi River ecosystem.
So we could flush our waste, basically.
Exactly, because we were getting our drinking water from Lake Michigan,
and it was nasty. Yeah.
We were putting our sewage into the Chicago River, and that was flowing into Lake Michigan, so we needed to fix that, and we now flush it down the Mississippi. So there are now 5 connections between the 5 openings from Lake Michigan to the Chicago Sanitary and Ship Canal. And there are also the potential for other connections. For example, when it floods, the Des Plaines River routinely overflows into the Chicago Sanitary and Ship Canal. And so if you want to stop Asian carp, we need to worry about more than just lock closure. There's only locks on 3 of these connections. There's some good things about this plan and some bad things. The good things are that it's going to build a barrier between the Des Plaines River and the Chicago Sanitary and Ship Canal,
which sounds
to prevent the
important.
flooding. So that's good. It includes lock closure. It contemplates the possibility of lock closure for the first time, which is good,
I'm
but
not
I'll get
impressed.
more to that back
Yeah.
then in a second. And then it includes other things like more reatone poisoning, which is regrettable, but
Yeah, that sounds really like. Doesn't it kill everything else along with the carp?
it is a selective fish poison. It kills fish. It's not
Okay.
harmful to humans, but it's regrettable. I think we need to minimize it, and I think it's necessary to an extent to control Asian carp. Let me just talk about closing the
Sure.
locks. So that's one thing that has been the focal point of discussion in Illinois, and closing the locks is important. It's not a complete solution.
Of course not.
Because there's two other connections to the lakes, because they leak, because water routinely overflows them, because they need to be opened to control flooding. And so for all of those reasons, what we really need to see is for the federal government to produce a plan that integrates lock closing, electrofishing, netting, reatone poisoning,
Monitoring,
monitoring to control for Asian carp, so that we can be sure that none are going to get, or to minimize the number that are getting past the locks. It may be feasible to have closing the locks 50% of the time be part of a integrated plan for preventing Asian carp getting to the lake, but without knowing the details, like what's going to be done on the days that the locks are open, we can't judge whether it's going to be an effective solution, and that's the real problem. And the federal government's had like 3 months to prepare this document, and for it not to include contingency plans and an explanation of how all of these tactics are going to form a comprehensive strategy is really disappointing.